From a Montreal perspective, how do they approach this one, knowing that they gave away home ice advantage in the last week of the season, Scott?
Well, I think you look at you let something slip away, and home ice is significant, especially on the Tampa side. And we go back to Lindback, his numbers on the road were atrocious this year. His numbers at home were better. So whatever the logic behind that is, or the reasoning is,
he's a homer.
He is a homer goalie. So now they start at home. But I think from Montreal's perspective, you just go in and you feel confident about your game. They were as hot as Tampa down the stretch. They missed it by that 1 point. So I don't think there's any reason. And they've been good on the road this year as well. So there's no reason to shy away or be afraid of this scenario.
First 5 minutes could change everything, but they're not feeling that great coming into this.
Who's that, Nick?
Montreal.
Yeah.
They did not play well. PK Subban's gone, 19 games without a goal. Power play struggles, Mac, you're right.
But they're still 8-2-1 down the stretch.
And they blew home ice advantage. And now there's a situation here in town where they're 25 minutes out from the arena. They're not in the hotel that they usually stay at.
But they did blow it because
did Tampa catch them? They were 8-2.
Yeah, no, I know that. Except, look, they go into Chicago and they dress half a team in Chicago, get a point with the idea, okay, we're guaranteed 2 at home against the Islanders. Ouch.
I don't care what the numbers are. They had home ice advantage and they lost it.
Yeah. And like we said coming in, let's not kid ourselves how critical home ice may be in this series. It could be the difference in this series.
And that's why
Lindback.
And that's why Bishop started against the Toronto Maple Leafs that you questioned. They wanted home ice advantage. They're very comfortable here. They're one of the top teams.
So
in the
did they
East
overthink it when they left half the roster at home against Chicago? But they still stole a point. And almost stole 2.
And felt good about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, I know you can't put all your eggs in one basket as you head down the stretch. You're getting in the playoffs. You're thinking about that. We talked to Babcock about that, and he said it. Hey, we're all we're worried about is we're getting in and who we're.
And again, 5 minutes in, you get a 1 or 2-0 lead for the Montreal Canadiens, and you start snowballing the momentum and the confidence, and maybe after game 1, the home ice advantage is gone.
And this is the first time Montreal goes into a playoff in a long time where they've got a chance to have a dominating line. I mean, with the Vanek acquisition and Pacioretty and Darnay, that has been one of the best lines in the NHL the second half of the season. So they feel pretty good. And Price is coming in on a roll, something they haven't had.
Let's dissect this a little bit more. And let's go through the positions. And goaltending would obviously go to Carey Price. But there's the pressure factor is also there for Carey Price.
It really is. And obviously, a pretty big hump he cleared with the Olympic gold. I think when you talk about the difference between stars in this league and superstars, true superstars, is your ability to play well when you're supposed to play well. And Carey Price has not delivered on that.
He has one series victory in his NHL
playoffs. He has not delivered that. His record of 9-17 is not impressive. And now that he's been 6-7 years in the league, people expect him now to come in here and get the Montreal Canadiens past the first round. It doesn't matter who's got home ice advantage. Let's face it, all the pressures. Everybody expects the Montreal Canadiens to advance after this round.
And there's
despite what home ice advantage tells you.
Right. And there's more pressure on Price because Bishop's out. I mean, if Bishop's in, Bishop being the MVP of the Tampa Bay Lightning, with Bishop out, I think it's even more pressure on Price. Now, they feel good because last year he limped into the playoffs against Ottawa. He was not good down the stretch, and he was awful against Ottawa. There's no doubt about that. But they feel really good about him right now because he's finished strong, the Olympic goal, they feel good about him.
Well, and then you look at it from the Tampa side, and is there a team that relied more on their goaltender to achieve what they did this year? Bishop was their MVP, the number of games he played, the workload he had. So there's a real drop-off with Lindback, although, as we mentioned, down the stretch, he was real good.
The 2 blue lines. We'll start with Doug.
Well, look, Tampa's blue line, and Nick talked about it all week, actually, about the emergence of Hedman. And he has become a horse, but they have played well. They've played well as a defensive group. I got to give the edge to Montreal. I think they've got a little more depth there. Subban, as you said, has struggled, but he's capable of being a difference maker.
They've got a 1-2 punch.
Markov is good, but they also feel they're reasonably deep. I think I think Subban, Hedman, it'll be an interesting matchup. But is there a real difference in the two? They
They
both
both
been
have
pretty
great
equal.
supporting cast. Weaver's been
Right.
great for Montreal. Koska's come in
Exactly.
and did a good job for Tampa
Koska's
Bay.
been real
for,
good.
for Hedman now, for me, you've watched him over the last 3 or 4 years, and there was just something missing in his game, and that was the ability to create past the red line. And now all of a sudden he's got that in his game, where he is a guy that handles the puck so much more today than he did in previous years. And there's a calming demeanor now. There's no panic now in his game when he does cross the blue line, that his head's up, he's making plays, and that's just a threat that you just absolutely love. But on the other side, it is the 1-2 punch of Markov and PK Subban. And I like, despite PK Subban not scoring in the last 19 games, you still saw the ability to create offense in terms of a shot on goal. Not necessarily that he's scoring.
And a lot of his offense went south with the power play as well for 8 games.
But the shots are getting through, and if it isn't a goal from PK, it's a rebound goal by Pacioretty, Desharnais.
Right.
These guys are there to mop it up. They're still creating so much offense from Markov and PK.
Is PK? Oh, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, from the Montreal perspective, when Emelin came back from injuries, that really perked up their blue line, because all of a sudden they had a top 4. Georges with Subban, Markov with Emelin. They're able to separate Subban and Markov.
There's also a bit of an issue that may affect Subban too, is contract. You know, he's got pressure, a little bit of pressure on himself. Montreal's got a little bit of pressure. Where do we go with PK? It's still a question. It's still in the back of the mind. I mean, look, he's that good. They need him, and I'm sure they want. But
I don't
there's
know.
still a little pressure there, I think, for a young guy.
But I don't know, Mac, if PK. We know PK. This guy will never lack confidence.
No.
He'll never sit there. To me, that's not a guy that gets
And it
rattled
shouldn't
over
bother
this.
him, eh?
He knows he's getting his money. He knows it. I don't think that there's a thought in his mind that says a bad playoff and my stock drops. That's not PK.
But can you look at this as a positive from the Montreal angle, that we've been up here for 13 minutes, and PK Subban is not a focal point right now. It's Carey Price. It's Pacioretty. It's the
Gallagher.
Tampa Bay Lightning goaltending scenario. And
That's
how
a good
gonna
thing for
play out.
PK.
Yeah,
That's a good thing
and
for
I think it
PK.
is too.
I think it's a sign of maybe maturity. We've seen troubles in the past where, all of a sudden it becomes about him, or it's something he does on the ice or something he says. I think he's perfectly
You
happy.
remember the playoffs in that series
where he
against
is right now coming in.
Ottawa last year, and the exchange between Pacioretty and
Right.
PK Subban.
I think PK, though, look, the fact that the power play has really stumbled, it's a pressure point. Yeah, his name's not out there. His name's not being mentioned. But let's not kid ourselves. When Cooper addresses his team about playing this game tonight, PK Subban's name will be mentioned a lot, and it'll be
The focal point.
Oh, totally. How do we take PK away on the power play? How can we effectively take him out of the mix? We got to worry about Vanek down low, but PK's name will be front and center. And don't think that Montreal Canadiens aren't expecting big things from PK.
Yeah, he's got a chance to make a name in this series and be a game
Totally.
changer.
Victor Hedman downstairs after practice today, he was wide-eyed, wondering where all the media came from, and this Montreal throng that follows the team, and then throw in the fact that they're the only team from Canada, so they got some national media as well. But he was asked about his season and where it came from, this emergence, this confidence, this extra offense. He said it's just maturity. Yeah. He hasn't done a single thing differently this year under John Cooper than he's done in the past.
It's a tough position
Number
to
2
break
overall,
into the league.
remember?
And if you look back at that draft, Tavares obviously has emerged, Matt Duchene, and then I think the first 2 defensemen in that draft is Hedman and Ekman Larsson. And Larsson now has stepped in, and you've mentioned him for a year now without really mentioning Hedman until now. Now all of a sudden he's put himself in that type of conversation of great young defensemen.
Yeah.
And again, it takes time. It takes time to have the confidence to be able to make plays over the red line.
Scotty.
And a ton of skill.
You and I were talking in the dressing room, just going around looking at
Looking at pictures?
Well, no, we were
Stealing
actually
gum? Did you steal gum?
No, didn't steal.
Did you
Get
get
any
anything-
autographs?
Did you get anything for your basement?
tape.
I almost stepped on the crest. I
Oh no,
almost
Scotty got
ejected.
yelled
Oh,
at.
gee. He did. Scotty, don't do that.
Hey,
I said,
hey.
well, why'd they put it on the floor in the
Stay
first
up
place?
the
Most teams
logo.
put.
It's not roped off like Chicago's.
I know.
But Hedman, I think
I had
there's
to
a
dance.
comparable there to Eric Brewer. And where Eric Brewer was in 2002, a Canadian Olympian,
Wow.
won gold. You expected him just to take off, and he's had a very solid career,
But disappeared.
but not what we expected from Eric Brewer. So Hedman, I was kind of thinking maybe was he following that same sort of career path?
Well, I think in Brewer's case, he had some injury problems that put him on his heels. And I think we used the example of a Brian Campbell, who signed a big contract, and all of a sudden people started judging him by the number and not by the performance necessarily, and saying, well, he wasn't worth that kind of a contract, and therefore he wasn't that good a player, but he was solid.
Isn't it interesting we're talking about a guy like Hedman today when you look at the Florida Panthers with the number 1 pick and Ekblad's name jumps out as do Florida go with a defenseman after how long it takes some guys to become real defensemen in the league. He's a heck of a player. He's a mature defenseman, and you'd say with the forwards Florida have, it may make sense for an Ekblad to be the guy.
You can compare blueprints in terms of the length of development or what's expected, but we know on the surface it's not even close. Eric Brewer's talent to Hedman's talent. I mean, people are going to marvel at this guy after this series in terms of his size, his mobility, his speed.
Well, guess what?
You know what? He's a special player. Hedman is a special player.
I
and
brought
he's-
up Salt Lake
He's got
City.
a ton of confidence right now. And how? By the way, how does Sweden keep this
That's
guy
what I mean.
off the lineup?
Brewer
in the
was an
Olympics,
Olympian at that
okay?
age.
Yeah.
Hedman was left off his team for Sochi.
Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. And I don't know if it's just they thought it was too much too
We
soon.
saw several curious decisions in terms of rosters at the Olympics this
And
year.
I think what's really caught us off guard about Hedman, and probably guys that watched him in junior wouldn't say this, but the fact that he ended with 55 points. I mean, I thought he'd be a real solid defensive defenseman that could move the puck effectively. I didn't see the point production coming.
No.
I mean, this guy at his age has potential to be a 70-point guy, which is, I mean, when does that come down the pipe? I mean, that's Carlson.
Well, Mac, I mean, those first 3-4 years, if he did attempt to skate over the red line with the puck, it was a hand grenade. It just would blow up on him.
and Hedman
Remember
had
the coaching?
Hedman
who the
had 2
coach
more
was,
points
right?
than Subban.
And let's not forget they played a 1-4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's from the blue line in. He can take it to the net. His head's up. There's
So,
tremendous amount of
is there a big
55-53.
patience in his game.
That's hard to believe what Scott just said. More points than Subban.
Different coaches this year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have
Yes.
John Cooper as opposed to Guy Boucher.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
I think it's
And
maturity,
Hedman also
too.
led the league in shorthanded points, 6 points. So
they're very dangerous.
Playing good on both
Tampa
sides
Bay
of
is
it.
very dangerous shorthanded.
Johnson's very dangerous.
That's not
Yeah.
good when your power play struggling and they're good shorthanded. That's not a good combination.
yeah, Canadians 0 for 23 over the last 8 games going in.
The Montreal Canadiens extras finishing up their practice behind us as we get set for the opening night of the Stanley Cup playoffs. 3 games on the ice. The Montreal Canadiens and Tampa Bay Lightning will drop the puck here. Darren Millard, along with Nick Kiprios, Doug McLean, Scott Morrison. Brian Bradley will join us in just a moment to give us some more insight into a Tampa Bay Lightning club that last year was in the draft lottery and this year is a number 2 seed in the Atlantic Division. Up front, safe to say we've given the nod on the defense and the goaltending to the Montreal Canadiens. What about up front with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Habs?
Well, I think you start with the matchup of the 2 superstars, Stamkos versus Vanek. We heard John Cooper.
Are they
talking
both
about,
superstars?
One is, I know.
Well, we know one is for sure,
Yeah.
but
The other guy's supposed to be.
The closest thing that the Montreal Canadiens have in terms of world-class talent or superstar status is Vanek. But I go back to unproven in the playoffs. The last 7 years, I think Vanek's had 10 playoff games, and can you put that all on his shoulders?
And
No,
not-
absolutely not.
And
but,
not a good Olympics either this year.
But here's a guy that is going into unrestricted free agency, and if he really truly wants to create something or end up in Minnesota, as we all hear that, he's got to deliver here, guys. He really does. There's no sense of going to spend $7.5 million on a guy that when it really counts isn't there.
And it is a different element that they've had. The Pacioretty-Vanek combination has really clicked. Vanek slows the game down. We heard Pacioretty talking about it the other day. Vanek slows the game down and finds Pacioretty in some pretty good scoring positions. Both of them are unbelievable in the paint. The way they can find pucks, the way they can deflect pucks, the way they can, with their quick hands, can make plays there. So it's an interesting look for them right now. And Plekanec just got a pretty good game going there. I think he and Gallagher have found something together there. So, hey, Montreal look a little more like they could create some offense.
And Desharnais fit in nicely with Vanek and Pacioretty as well. And
the mayor wanted him out of the city.
Well, that's it. You think about the season this kid had, 1 point in his first 19 games, and all of a sudden he's playing on the top line, 50 in his last 56. And, an undrafted kid who's had to work his way up. And to Doug's point, the mayor was calling him out on Twitter earlier in the season saying he should be in Hamilton. Well, not so much right now.
And it wasn't Mayor Ford calling him out.
No, it wasn't.
And you touched on this at the top of the show. It's inexperience here, and we've got guys like Gallagher. We got Johnson on the rookie side for Tampa Bay, and Palat, of course, has had a great year, and arguably they're top forward all season long, especially when Stamkos was out of the lineup. Who's going to step up? Who's going to get off to a good start? Who's going to kind of, squeeze the stick too hard and feel the playoff pressure here? Somebody's got to get out of the gate early when it comes to these kids. And, if Gallagher can get a few points early and gain momentum, then, you give a lot of momentum to Montreal if a few of those kids can get going early.
You don't want to go down 0-2. Going back to the pressure of Montreal. So they got to get a split here for sure.
What are the Tampa Bay Lightning up front after Steven Stamkos?
Well, you just said it, Nick. Palat is their leading scorer. He wouldn't have been if Stamkos was there, but he found a way to get it done. Killorn has been a real good player.
Phil
Pula's been a strong player.
Johnson.
Purcell has been a good. You go down the list, and all of a sudden
they
you
do
go
have Ryan
from
Callahan as well.
Well, Callahan gives them
good
a
depth.
different look too. A real, when you talk about how do you win playoff series or how do you go to a conference final or a Stanley Cup, you keep an eye on Callahan and the little things that he does, the battles in the corner, the 2-foot pass that ends up in the net. It's subtle, but those little things add up to big things this time of year.
Another guy to watch, and it's interesting when you think that he's on the fourth line, but on the Montreal side of it is Danny Briere, who's just been a great playoff performer over the years. Does he have one last hurrah?
Well, the trick there is,
Coach isn't a big fan.
I remember, yeah, exactly. And Dave Tippett said it to me when we dressed beside each other in Washington. Sometimes you're as good as they want you to be. Yeah. And I
wanted you to be better when I coached.
No, you did not. You just left me right there.
I wanted you to be a lot better.
You said, I know how good you are. You're staying right there. Where is the ability to win him over? What does he need to do to step up and be a legitimate top 6 forward on this hockey club?
Well, they only scored 4 regulation goals against Tampa this year, and he had half of them. So you might want to get him in a position where he can produce for you, but I don't know.
You're right. You never underestimate a guy with that kind of experience and has scored a lot of big goals.
Edge to Tampa or Montreal with forwards?
I'm giving it to.
I would go with the Lightning just because they have the best player, and everything else is going to maybe cancel each other.
And the experience of a Callahan, I would give them an edge.
For me,
but it's tight.
They're so tight all top to bottom.
Special teams?
Well, Montreal's power play hasn't been very good, but the PK on the other side hasn't been great either.
You get one goal early in game 1, and you forget about the last 3 weeks. And you got to give Markov and PK the advantage.
To me, the only question, other than it being a pick'em series, is no Bishop. Other than that, I think it's close to a wash. I really and Stamkos is that good that he could turn the series around. But it's, to me, the only thing I'm looking at is no Bishop, Price.
Yeah, the old cliche, the best penalty killer won't be playing for Tampa tonight.